Hey guys, it is Tristan with Nerdette's Newsstand, and I got a special opportunity to interview Richard Meyer with Comics Matter with your boy Zack, and he has just released his Indiegogo campaign. Less than a week ago, it was funded in 45 minutes, and it is absolutely amazing looking. I will have the links to all of that in the description and the pinned comment. Make sure you check it out, but here goes. Hey guys, it is Tristan with Nerdette's Newsstand, and with me I have your boy Zack from Diversity in Comics with Matters with your boy Zack, whatever you want to call it at this point. And he has just released his Indiegogo campaign for Jawbreakers, written by himself, and art by Aaron Alfecci, and colors by the Color Channel. I just wanted to ask a couple questions and see exactly your view on the campaign. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about the campaign?
Yeah, so it's Indiegogo, which is crowdfunding. You give a pledge, and then when the product is finished, because the creators use your money to finish it, then it's mailed out to you. So I've done like 4 of these already. This is my 5th one, and I've kind of been, getting better at the system. So my last one was 100% on time. So this one is, the whole book is actually like, the line art is like 96% done right now. So it's a book that's almost done. We'll be done within a couple weeks, and then we'll ship out in September. It's the culmination of the God-King storyline, which is kind of like almost like an Avengers Endgame style big deal ending before a new beginning for the characters.
And the story is set after the 2 backup stories in Lost Souls, correct?
Yeah, so the 2 backup stories, so there's a little bit of confusion, and it's going to be less confusing in the future because I'm just going to tell the whole story in one book. But Lost Souls, my book from last year, had a main story called Lost Souls, and then it had 2 backups that were just called Book 1 and Book 2. But that was actually Book 1 and Book 2 of the God-King storyline. So this next book is the ending of it, but it's like a 44-page ending instead of just being like 20 pages or so. It's basically I expanded the story because people were saying they thought things were too compressed in Books 1 and Book 2. So Book 3 is effectively double-sized. And then in God-King, the book that I'm promoting right now, you have the main story, which is called God-King, and then there's 3 backup stories.
And one of those is by Chuck Dixon, correct?
Yes, there's if you go to the Indiegogo, you're going to see an image of a guy hoisting a 50 cal, and that's the character Devil Dog back before he was a superhero. So this is an origin story about Devil Dog.
So, like, as a huge Chuck Dixon fan myself, how did it feel actually being able to work with him?
Well, it was very exciting. I've never met him in real life, but
right.
Been friends online for like 10 years. And, he did Team 7, which was a huge comic for me, not only like in comics, but in kind of like life. I think Team 7 is like 30% of why I enlisted. So getting him to write, my military character, Devil Dog's the only actual military veteran on the team. That was very, very exciting. So he's really good at research. Mm-hmm. So his stuff feels very on the ground.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. I seen that. I was so excited. One of the backup stories, speaking of those of God-King, is the Zashi story. She kind of became like a breakout character in Lost Souls. But I noticed you stated before she had a bigger role and it was cut back. Is there a reason why that, and why do you think she's such an interesting character, so loved?
So she actually had a smaller character. So originally she was a very minor character.
Right.
She was just kind of a, like a honeypot. She was sent by the warlord to trick the Jawbreakers into doing some work for them, and then they were going to come in and take the rewards. But she was in the first couple of pages, so she was in the preview pages for Lost Souls. People saw her, this fantastic art by John Malin and Brett Smith. Right. And everyone kind of assumed she was like the Princess Leia or something like that. So I was like, oh boy, people really like her, but she's a really minor character. So I guess you could say her part expanded and then contracted. So then I said, to John, I was like, hey, I'm going to expand her. He goes, yeah, no problem. But then she became like the main character, and he's like, whoa, dial it back. This is the Jawbreakers, not, a random character. You need to really introduce them, focus on the Jawbreakers. So then she went from a couple pages to like the whole book to, a significant, like, tragic part of the story. But spoilers, I mean, pretty much everyone just talks about soberly. She died, or she seemed to die, and kind of unceremoniously. She just kind of got her neck snapped, and that was it. So we're going to find out that for her, that was not just it. And her life and her story did not end in the last panel. She was visible in Lost Souls.
So that's hence the name Respawn.
Yeah.
Mike Miller is working on a crossover book that includes the Jawbreaker characters, right?
Yes.
So have you had any input on exactly what's going on with that?
Yeah, so a couple months ago, there were some people with, a lot of Indiegogos, and some were kind of getting a little disappointed. They felt theirs were underperforming.
Mm-hmm.
I've been talking about this with Ethan. 3 years ago, before we all started this thing, a successful crowdfunding campaign for comics was $3,000.
Right.
And now people make $12,000 and they're pissed. But we kind of created a model to get more publicity and more people to look at your thing. But I basically said I give a kind of like a semi-open license to people. I said, you can just use my characters, just run it by me. Let me review the script, so it's not doing anything deleterious to my intellectual property. And Mike was the only one who took me up on it. I was kind of surprised. I thought more people would be like, oh yeah, I'll put the Jawbreakers. So I believe it was a stretch goal for his second Indiegogo for his new character, and so he just asked if he could use them. I said yeah. He ran the script by me. It's a pretty simple, just a bunch of guys meet and they fight a third party. And I just had a couple of things. I said, hey, this is actually similar to something that's going to happen in the next book, so can you change it? So he changed it to something else. And then it was kind of off to the races. He met his goal, so that's going to be a stretch goal. One of the things one of the reasons I did this open, like semi-open license is so people who felt like they were kind of like underperforming, they could say, oh, I got a Silkworm story, I got a Double Dog story in here, just to help them out. Because the other thing is like, it was like they get to keep what they make from that. You don't have to give me a percentage.
Right.
But also, like, it's just me, so I can only tell like one Jawbreakers, well, it's a couple stories, but one book per year. I wish I could do more content, so it's really exciting to me that Mike was able to produce more content. I didn't have to fund it, and I just basically reviewed it, and it's his to do whatever he wants with it.
I mean, and kind of...
sorry, for legal reasons. Do whatever he wants, pursuing to the established agreement we already have.
So, like, kind of on the same lines, like, how many more Jawbreaker stories do you have to tell? Like, how many more do you have planned?
So originally God King was all of the Jawbreakers was just God King storyline. And this was like 5 years ago, before, crowdfunding really became a big deal. It was, like I said, if you made $3,000 on a Kickstarter, you were ecstatic. So I was like, I'm just going to do everything I ever wanted to do in superheroes, and that'll probably be it, because I'll probably be, in debt afterwards. But now I'm going to do probably one Jawbreakers per year, one, 100-page book. And I've got like 5 more stories, but it'll take me 5 years to do that. I'm sure I'll come up with enough to kind of go indefinitely. The Jawbreakers franchise is going to move backwards and forwards in time. Like the book after this one is how they all met, and then it's going to go a lot of places. It's not a couple of the characters are effectively semi-immortal, so you're going to get to see it's almost like a Highlander story event.
Right. One of the things that your first book did really well, and kind of the strength of you as a writer, is your ability to have interaction and dialogue compared to some of the crap we see nowadays. So, how much of your character's function, interaction, apply from like your own personal circumstance? I've talked about this in videos before, where we've seen obvious writers use this as therapy. Instead of that, how much draws from personal interactions or experiences?
Well, the Jawbreakers are basically me kind of remolding my military experiences with myself and my friends and kind of distilling it, not taking the actual facts, but taking more of like the feelings from it. So when they're busting each other's balls, it's because we used to do that. When they're, risking each other's lives for each other, that's because we used to do that. This kind of bond, that's what I took from my military experience and my friends in the military, and I put that into a superhero storyline.
And that's what I like so much about it, because now it just seems like you get people writing dialogue, and it's like you know exactly what I mean. But so have you, like, from what you've learned from your other campaigns, is there anything you're doing specifically different this time? I know there was some issues before.
Yeah. So one thing is that, and this is very, very, very clear, I always appreciate when people give comments, is I know the story because I wrote it, and I actually wrote the initial script for me to draw, so I was just reminding myself of something I already knew. But you have to, take into account that no one's reading my mind, so I can't just assume they understand how priest power works. So people were saying my transitions from one scene to another were a little jarring to them, and they also felt like they wanted more explanation on how powers and things like, and gadgets and things like that worked, and the lore of the world. So that's why I expanded. Originally, God King was just like the final 25 pages of like an 80-page story, and now it got expanded to 44 pages. So there's a lot more room to breathe and to transition and to explain and to give people those like satisfying answers that they want. Right.
And you've worked with John Malin, Kelsey Shannon, Simon Bennett. Like, now you have Aaron, I can't even say his last name, I apologize, Elfachi for God King. Is there anyone else you're looking to work for with in the future, or is there kind of not playing that far ahead?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the cool things is I describe this as I'm kind of moving from the controversy to content phase.
Right.
And so I got people that want to work. At first, they were a little nervous, and they're like, "Oh, should I use a pseudonym?" And now they're just like, but I mean, there's so many people I'd like to work with. But the elephant in the room is there's still bullies in the industry who are going to target and harass them for working with me. Although that's really, really fading a lot faster than I thought it would. So I can definitely see 2 years from now. I don't want to say specific people's names.
Right, I get that.
Harassed, but yeah, I definitely have. I'm just willing to talk to anyone. People will DM me, and it's just the most interesting people. There's this really rich history of comics, and someone's like, "Oh, I used to do this at Marvel in the '90s," and some guy's like, "I was at DC in the '80s," or "I was at Valiant when it was Acclaim bought it," and there's all these cool kind of stories. So yeah, I want to, and I also want to work again with people that I worked with before, like John Malin. Although he's kind of got his own franchise now with Graveyard Shift.
Right, but that art, you can't even argue. Do you think we're going to see an Iron Sights too?
Oh yeah, I'm actually right at my tablet making sure it doesn't go to sleep because I just uploaded page 61 to Dropbox. It's 61% done.
Holy
yeah, so one of the big problems with crowdfunding is a lot of times people start from zero, and then they fund something, and then they start from zero on their next one. So you're waiting like 6 months, a year, 2 years. But since Lost Souls was successful, I was able to fund Iron Sights, most of God King, and most of Iron Sights 2, and part of Desolation Wave, which is a book for next year, all from Lost Souls. So that's the whole plan, is you take the profits from one and you fund partial of the future. So eventually I'm going to have one book that's just going to be a dud. But if you always start off at zero, then it's 2 years before your next book.
Right.
So I say dud, like it'll just break even. But I've got it, so I can handle stuff like that.
What do you think for this book in particular, like your biggest strength in making it?
Probably the biggest strengths is I really know the characters and I'm very enthusiastic about them.
Right.
I always talk about this thing, the SJWs, where they don't talk about their books and they seem completely uninterested. I used to say disinterested, but people say disinterested means impartial. Uninterested. They'll just talk about it like the day it come out. They're like, I did a thing. And then they'll go back to talking about Trump. It's like, it took you like 6 months. Talk about it. Somebody sent me a screenshot of Donnie Cates basically telling, retweeting someone's like, promote your stuff. Don't be embarrassed of success and work. It's like, yes, everyone should be doing that. Being excited about something gets other people excited about it.
Speaking of Donnie Cates, have you been interested in the Carnage coming out?
I was, and then I just saw what they did with it.
Yeah.
It's like more than 50 books. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is.
Really simple character. He's a Joker version of Venom. Like, he's not that deep. You can't do, 50 times 20? What is that? 2,000 pages of content?
I know. I was really excited for it too. It was like gonna bring me back to Marvel, and it's like Donnie Cates has been nothing but rude, and I seen that and I'm like, oh my god, no.
Yeah, so I'll check out if I can even figure out what the core series or miniseries is, because everything's called Absolute Carnage. I don't know what I think I'm gonna have to ask, like, is this the actual? Sometimes I buy something, they're like, oh, this is the prequel, this is the sequel, this is the parallel story. It's like, what? I don't know. Just tell me, what is the story? Nobody knows.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to personally ask this because I'm such a huge Batman fan. Who do you think's taking over after Tom King?
Bendis.
Yeah, me too. Oh my god, after that Batman this couple days ago. Oh my god, yeah. I had to ask.
Yeah, he's up for it. So it's gonna be. But I think he's gonna give himself an exit, because it's too much pressure. Like, they're expected to sell 100,000, but the industry's been destroyed so much that the numbers don't even work to sell 100,000 consistently.
No, absolutely not.
So set yourself up for 6 months, 12 months with good artists, and then just leave on a high note, then hand it off to some poor schlub who has to try to sell 100,000 books to the remaining 1,500 stores.
Yeah, good luck with it. So what was your favorite part about developing this book in particular compared to the others?
The part was getting, it's always getting the line art. I mean, for the last book and this one, and even the next two books, I mean, just seeing somebody who's a better artist than me, which is basically everyone, draw your characters in your head. And one of my favorite things is when people take, for legal purposes, I'm going to say not ownership, but a type of ownership over my characters, and they kind of say, okay, so this is how I feel about so far. I'm going to draw them like this, and it's so exciting to see that.
Yeah, I literally think I asked you everything. Is there anything that you want my viewers to know specifically about the book or about the campaign? Which I'll of course have all the links in the description. But anything in particular you want to say?
The biggest one is that this book is it's almost done. It's going to be done in like 3 weeks.
Oh my god!
So then we're going to have another couple weeks to perfect the print file and go back and forth with the printers. That's actually more complicated than it seems. But this is July. You're going to have the book at the end of September. That's fairly unprecedented in crowdfunding. So
oh, for sure.
It's taken, like a year and a half to kind of work this process. But I've got a nice team right now. So it's very exciting to me because when you back something, geez, if it comes 6 months later, it feels like it came in 6 days. It feels like Amazon Prime shipping. So like 2 months will seem like you instantly got it.
Oh, one last question. You're doing a pinup, correct? For Zashi?
Yes.
And is that by Sashi again?
Yeah. So
oh,
Sashi
great.
And Zashi is named after Sashi. Sashi
right.
does she does lots of different types of art, but she's really good at kind of like pinup style art. So she's done pinups for all my books so far, and most likely all the books in the future.
Right? They're freaking beautiful. Her art's amazing.
I have a Korean War book in like 2 years. That would probably be inappropriate, but anything where it makes sense. Yeah,
that makes sense. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. I will definitely have this up tomorrow. I'm so excited that you did this for me. That was absolutely amazing. I can't believe I even got this opportunity. I just want to thank Richard entirely so much. I absolutely had a blast. Thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget to check out the campaign in the pinned comment and the description, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Hey guys, if you want to help support the channel, don't forget to check out my Patreon and Subscribestar link in the description. And I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreons, Lee Colt, Grand Smear, Black Knight Fool, Jeffrey Allen Carnes, and Robert. Thank you all so much. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye-bye.